If you do what 90% of people are doing, you'll stay broke, tired, distracted, and full of excuses, just like them. If you want extraordinary results, you have to become the kind of person who does what the average person avoids. You have to train your mind to crave the uncomfortable, to take action when it's hard to continue, and to keep going long after the motivation fades. That's how you rise. Not with hype, with habits, not by luck, but by locking in a mindset where hard work isn't optional, it's your default setting to work harder. In this audiobook, you'll learn how to push your limits, rewire your habits, and build the kind of daily discipline that makes hard work feel natural. You'll learn how to do what 99% aren't willing to do until it becomes second nature. Chapter 1. Build a bias toward action. If there's one thing that separates high performers from everyone else, it's this: they move. They don't wait to feel ready. They don't overthink. They don't need the perfect plan, the right mood, or a motivational quote to begin. They act, over and over. And the rest of the world, they hesitate, they analyze, overplan, self-doubt, scroll, avoid. Then they wonder why things don't change. The truth is, most people are addicted to preparation, but allergic to action. They convince themselves they need one more strategy, one more tutorial, one more clean workspace before they can start. But it's not a lack of knowledge that's holding them back. It's a lack of action bias. Action bias is a psychological tendency to take decisive steps, especially when faced with uncertainty. It's been studied across industries, from emergency response to entrepreneurship to sports. In one study published in the Journal of Economic Psychology, researchers found that professional soccer goalkeepers were more likely to dive left or right during penalty kicks, even though statistically staying in the center had a higher chance of success. Why? Because doing something feels better than doing nothing, even if nothing is smarter. That's action bias. But here's the catch. In real life, most people have the opposite of that instinct. They lean into thought, into hesitation, into the illusion that doing more thinking will eventually turn into doing. It rarely does. Mel Robbins put it bluntly: you're not a procrastinator, you're just in the habit of hesitating. That hesitation becomes a default. Your body gets used to it, your nervous system normalizes it, and before long, starting something, even something small, feels like a massive lift. That's not laziness, that's habit memory. It's the brain saying, we always wait, we don't move first. But that can change, and when it does, everything changes with it. Let's look at a real-world situation. You wake up and know you need to get a task done. Say, writing a report. Your brain feels the pressure and immediately launches a negotiation. Maybe I should get some coffee first. Then you think, maybe I should check my email. Then let me just look something up real quick to help me get started. And before you know it, 30 minutes have passed and the work hasn't even begun. This is a loop. A highly trained loop of mental avoidance. You're in motion, but not in movement. You're active, but not productive. The solution is to reprogram your response to hesitation. And that starts with the 2-minute jumpstart rule. It's simple, it's fast, and it works. The moment you think about a task you need to do, commit to doing just 2 minutes of it. Not the whole thing, not a perfect version, just 2 minutes. Write the first sentence. Open the document. Stretch before the workout. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is motion. Because once you're moving, momentum does the rest. There's a concept in physics called Newton's first law of motion. An object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion. The same law applies to behavior. Once you start, even if you start small, the act of doing something pulls you deeper into it. Psychologists call this behavioral activation, and it's been shown in multiple studies to reduce anxiety, increase energy, and improve follow-through. It's the idea that mood follows action, not the other way around. James Clear, again in Atomic Habits, talks about the difference between motion and action. Motion is planning, researching, thinking about change. Action is execution. Motion feels good. It makes you think you're making progress. But only action produces results. You can plan a workout for 2 hours, but until you sweat, nothing's changed. That's why people can spend years stuck in prep mode. They confuse the idea of effort with real effort. The top 1% don't make that mistake. Let's look at a few more examples. You want to start a side hustle, but instead of making your first post or reaching out to your first client, you spend weeks designing a logo, reading business books, watching success stories. It feels productive, but it's not. Or you want to have a hard conversation with someone, but you script it 10 different ways in your head. Wait for the right mood, hope the problem solves itself. You stay in mental rehearsal mode. Meanwhile, life moves on, and the opportunity to act, gone. So how do you break that cycle? You make action your new default. Here's the step-by-step system to build a true bias toward action. Step 1. Identify one area of your life where you consistently hesitate. Fitness, work, relationships, learning. Step 2. Isolate the moment right before the hesitation kicks in. Is it when you sit down to write? When you think about working out? When you go to speak up but stop yourself? Step 3. Apply the 2-minute jumpstart. Move, type, walk, speak. Do something, anything, that breaks the stillness. Step 4. Reflect after every session. Ask yourself, did starting make it easier to keep going? Almost every time the answer is yes. Once that loop is in place, hesitation followed by movement, you begin to retrain your nervous system. You teach your brain that uncertainty doesn't mean wait, it means go. And the more you do that, the more automatic it becomes. Eventually you'll stop needing permission. You'll stop overanalyzing. You'll become a person who moves first and thinks while moving. This is what high performers have mastered. They don't always know the whole path. They don't always feel confident or ready. But they step forward anyway. And from that step, the next one appears. Author Stephen Pressfield, in The War of Art, called it turning pro. The amateur waits for inspiration. The pro acts in anticipation of it. When you stop waiting and start building that bias to act, you cross the line from amateur to professional, not in job title but in identity. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, anytime you catch yourself thinking, planning or waiting for the perfect moment to begin, use the 2-minute rule. Get up, move, start, write, speak, click, type. Build the habit of breaking hesitation immediately, even if the action is messy, even if it's imperfect, especially if it's uncomfortable, because the person who moves first wins. Not because they're the smartest, but because they're in the game while others are still on the sidelines. You don't need more time. You don't need more tools. You need a bias toward action. Train it, use it, and watch how fast everything else changes. Chapter 2. Make your environment a trigger. If your environment doesn't support your discipline, it will sabotage it. No matter how strong your mindset is, if the world around you pulls you back into old habits, you'll keep slipping. People don't just fail because they lack willpower, they fail because they're surrounded by friction. Friction in their room, in their phone, in their kitchen, in their calendar. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's a cluttered desk, a buzzing notification, a chair that's too comfortable, but those details matter, because your environment isn't just where you live, it's what you respond to. It either pulls you forward or holds you in place. This chapter is about making sure it pulls you forward. Your brain is constantly scanning your surroundings for cues. Visual, physical, digital. It's all information, and when those cues are aligned with your goals, discipline becomes easier. But when those cues are built around distraction and comfort, everything feels harder than it should. You might think you're just lazy, but in reality you're being triggered by the wrong things. You see your phone, you check it, you see your bed, you lie down, you see snacks, you grab them. These aren't decisions, they're reactions. And reactions come from triggers. Change the trigger, and you change the reaction. This isn't motivational talk, it's hard neuroscience. In the field of behavioral psychology, one of the most proven concepts is cue-induced behavior. Your brain builds associations between objects and actions over time. If you usually sit on the couch and scroll, your brain learns this is the scroll spot. If your desk is covered in distractions, your brain doesn't link it with focus. It links it with scattered energy. You can have the best intentions, but if the environment is sending the wrong signals, your system won't support your goals. That's why real change starts with changing the space around you. Let's look at a few everyday examples. You want to work deeply for 2 hours, but your workspace has 3 tabs open, your phone next to your hand, and random items cluttering the desk. That chaos creates internal noise. Your brain doesn't know what to prioritize, so you bounce between windows, between tasks, between thoughts. Or maybe you want to eat cleaner, but your kitchen is filled with snacks and processed food within arm's reach. Even if you're committed, you're constantly battling temptation. That battle drains energy you could be using to execute. The solution is to start designing your environment like it's your partner, not your opponent. Every space you spend time in should be working with you, and that means being intentional. Every item, every sound, every app, every surface, it either serves your mission or sabotages it. This is where you take control, not by rearranging for aesthetics, but by rearranging for action. Here's a method that works. It's called Design for Discipline. Step 1. Identify your high-friction zones. That means the spaces or digital setups where you most often lose focus, give up early, or fall into old habits. It could be your desk, your bedroom, your kitchen, your browser. Step 2. Remove the trigger. Clear the desk. Silence the notifications. Delete the app. Hide the food. Take away anything that fights your new standard. Step 3. Plant new cues. Want to journal every morning? Put your notebook on your pillow so you can't go to sleep without seeing it. Want to read more? Put the book on your dinner plate before you eat. Want to work out first thing? Put your shoes and gym clothes by the door, not buried in your closet. Make it obvious. Make it visible. Make it automatic. This is called environmental priming. It means your surroundings are sending subconscious messages that align with your goals, and it works. Research from Health Psychology Review shows that behavior is far more likely to become habitual when it's tied to consistent environmental cues. That's why people who leave their phones in another room sleep better. That's why people who meal prep eat better. They're not relying on willpower, they're engineering their success. You don't need to control everything, but you do need to control the 5 feet around you. The desk, the screen, the fridge, the sounds, the people. These aren't minor details, they're your battlefield. And if you set that field up to support the discipline you want to build, the daily grind gets lighter. Not because the task is easier, but because the friction is lower. Let's be real. You can't out-discipline a world that's designed to distract you, but you can reshape the world within your reach, and that's enough. You don't need a perfect system. You need a system that makes the right choice easy and the wrong choice annoying. You need friction between you and distraction. You need flow between you and progress. Here's your challenge. Pick one space you use every day. Just one. Maybe it's your desk, your room, your phone screen, your car. Now scan it. What's in that space that doesn't serve your goals? What's missing that would make it easier to show up consistently? Now change one thing today. Remove something. Add something. Rearrange something. Make it obvious. Don't wait until the weekend. Don't think it's too small to matter, because small changes in your space create massive changes in your consistency. The most disciplined people in the world aren't always the strongest. They're just the smartest about structure. They build their surroundings like armor. They don't ask their brain to fight the same battles all day. They build environments that do half the work for them. You can do the same. It starts with awareness, then one change, then another, until your environment stops tempting you to fall and starts helping you rise. Every single day. Chapter 3. Kill the comfort loop. If you keep choosing what feels good now, you'll keep losing what could have been great later. That's the trap. You start off with high energy, a clear goal, maybe even a plan, but then it gets uncomfortable. Your brain looks for the exit, and without even realizing it, you follow the same loop you've followed 100 times before. You take a break. You scroll. You delay. And that one moment of escape becomes a habit. It becomes a cycle. It becomes your loop. You didn't fail because the goal was too hard. You failed because you trained yourself to leave as soon as it got uncomfortable. That's what this chapter is about, breaking the comfort loop that's keeping you from every next level of your life. The comfort loop always starts the same way, with a moment of resistance. Maybe you sit down to do some focused work, and 5 minutes in, you feel a wave of boredom or tension. Maybe you're in the middle of a workout and the burn kicks in. Maybe you're facing a blank page, a cold call, a hard conversation. Whatever the trigger is, the brain registers discomfort and instinctively tries to soothe it. Not solve it, soothe it. That means distractions, food, scrolling, quitting early. And when you follow that instinct, you don't just lose time, you reinforce a belief. I can't stay here. I need to feel better before I continue. That belief becomes automatic. It builds a comfort-first reflex. And once that reflex becomes part of your identity, your growth slows to a crawl. Because growth always demands staying uncomfortable longer than you're used to. Dr. Kelly McGonigal, a health psychologist at Stanford and author of The Upside of Stress, explains that the human brain is wired to protect itself from perceived threats, including emotional discomfort. The moment your stress response activates, your body tries to escape the situation, even if it's exactly what you need. She writes that how you think about stress matters. When you see discomfort as a threat, you run. When you see it as training, you stay. That mindset shift is everything. Because you can't eliminate discomfort from discipline. You can only change your relationship to it. Research backs this up. A 2017 study published in Psychological Science found that people who intentionally practiced staying with uncomfortable emotions, whether during workouts, learning, or emotional conversations, reported higher resilience, stronger follow-through, and more satisfaction long-term. In other words, discomfort tolerance is not just a mindset, it's a muscle, one you can train. So how do you kill the comfort loop? It starts with a simple tool called the 10-minute discomfort delay. The next time you're doing something hard and feel the urge to stop, don't Don't give in. Don't switch. Don't soothe. Instead, set a timer for 10 minutes and keep going. 10 minutes of staying in the burn. 10 minutes of holding the tension. 10 minutes of showing your brain that discomfort is not a stop sign. It's a signal that you're entering the zone where growth happens. Most cravings, stress peaks, and resistance waves fade within that window, but you never get to see that if you always escape too soon. Let's break it down. Step 1. Recognize the trigger, that impulse to stand up. Check your phone, grab a snack, or quit. Step 2. Pause and breathe. Literally tell yourself, I'm in the loop. Step 3. Delay it. Stay in the work. Stay in the pain. Stay in the silence. 10 minutes. That's your rep. And here's the key. You're not doing this to prove anything to the world. You're doing it to rebuild self-trust, to show yourself that you can stay, that you're not fragile, that you can finish. Look at the most disciplined people you know. They're not comfortable all the time. They're just better at sitting in discomfort without flinching. They've stretched their tolerance through reps. A boxer doesn't learn to take punches by thinking about it. He learns by stepping in the ring and getting hit. A writer doesn't learn flow by waiting for it. She learns by sitting in the frustration and typing anyway. That's how you build power. You stop running from the discomfort and start treating it like a workout. And here's a secret. The more time you spend in discomfort, the less power it has. What once felt overwhelming starts to feel familiar. The urge to escape gets quieter. Your patience gets longer. Your focus deepens, and what used to break your rhythm becomes part of it. That's when you know you've broken the loop, when discomfort no longer makes the decisions. But be careful. The comfort loop will try to trick you. It won't always look like laziness. Sometimes it shows up as I've done enough for now, or I'll do it better after a break. Sometimes it disguises itself as self-care or productivity. But if you didn't earn the rest, it's not self-care, it's self-sabotage. You know the difference. Your body knows when you cut corners, and it always keeps the score. Here's your challenge. For the next 5 days, pick one moment each day where you normally escape. It could be mid-workout. It could be during a writing session. It could be while studying or having a tough conversation. The moment the urge to exit hits, pause and do the opposite. Set a 10-minute timer. Stay, train, build the muscle, and track how often you win. Because every time you override the comfort loop, you upgrade your internal standard, and those upgrades compound. The people who rise aren't the ones who avoid discomfort, they're the ones who outlast it. The ones who feel the same resistance you do, but stay anyway. That's how you separate yourself from the 99%. Not by doing what's easy, but by staying 10 minutes longer when it gets hard. That's where the edge lives. And now you know how to reach it. Chapter 4. Make pain productive. If you keep running from pain, you'll keep running from growth. You can't separate the two. Every version of you that's stronger, wiser, sharper, more focused, it's on the other side of something uncomfortable. Pain isn't the enemy. It's the raw material of progress. But most people don't use it. They avoid it. They numb it. They complain about it. And in doing so, they waste it. Pain is supposed to shape you, not stop you. This chapter is about turning pain into a tool, not a trap. It's about taking what hurt you and using it to fuel what builds you. Everybody carries pain. Some of it is old regrets, failures, betrayal, rejection. Some of it is recent stress, anxiety, comparison, disappointment. But no matter where it comes from, the question is always the same. What are you doing with it? Because pain that isn't transformed gets transferred. If you don't direct it, it will direct you. If you don't put it to work, it will work against you. and it'll do it quietly, through procrastination, through fear, through self-sabotage. But when you decide to use it, something changes. Pain stops being weight and starts becoming fuel. Let's start with something real. Think about a moment in your life that hurt. Maybe it was failure, when you gave your best and still fell short. Maybe it was embarrassment when you were exposed or overlooked. Maybe it was abandonment when someone you trusted didn't show up. These moments leave a mark, and most people try to erase them. But you can't erase what happened. You can only decide what it means, and that's the power you have right now. You can assign pain a new purpose. This is where the method comes in, something I call the pain reframe. It's a mental shift that helps you turn pain into progress. Step 1. Write it down. Don't hide it. Don't bury it. Put it in front of you. What happened? What did you feel? What part of you was tested? Be honest. Step 2. Write what it taught you. What truth did it reveal? What weakness did it expose? What strength did it demand? Step 3. Turn it into a mission. Ask yourself, how can I use this? Maybe it means being more disciplined, more independent, more alert, more resilient. Then act on that answer today. Not later. Not when the feeling fades. Now, there's real science behind this. Studies from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology show that people who actively assign meaning to painful experiences are more likely to grow from them. It's called post-traumatic growth, a process where hardship, when reflected on and used intentionally, leads to lasting psychological strength. But the key isn't just surviving something hard, it's processing it with purpose. Pain that is ignored or suppressed doesn't build you, it blocks you. Pain that is faced and reframed becomes one of the most powerful forms of momentum you'll ever have. Think of the world's most disciplined, relentless people. Almost all of them have a story. Not a story of ease, but a story of struggle. They were counted out. They were told they weren't enough. They lost people. They lost everything. But they made a decision. Not to forget the pain, but to use it. They turned it into a reason, a standard, a fire that kept burning long after motivation disappeared. They built rituals around it. They trained through it. They woke up to it. Pain wasn't the thing that broke them. It was the thing that forged their edge. That can be you too, but only if you stop seeing pain as something to escape and start seeing it as something to work with. Think about the gym. It's pain on purpose. You go there knowing it's going to hurt. You know the soreness is coming, but you welcome it because you've attached meaning to it. That's what you need to do with emotional pain, with failure pain, with long-term disappointment. You need to walk toward it with intention and turn it into resistance training for your mind. Here's a real-world application. Say you've been through rejection, maybe from a job, a relationship, a team. Instead of letting that pain shrink your confidence, use it to sharpen your skills. You weren't chosen? Then train until you can't be ignored. You were embarrassed in front of others? Use that sting to double your preparation. You were betrayed? Build stronger boundaries and a sharper sense of who belongs in your space. Every pain point can become a pressure point for growth if you choose to engage with it. But be warned, your old self will want to wallow. It'll want to replay the memory, to tell the story, to look for pity. That's the default. And the longer you live there, the more powerless you feel. To grow, you must leave the old narrative. You must become the kind of person who says, yes, it hurt, but it didn't win, and then prove it with action. Here's your challenge. Think of one pain you've been carrying, recent or old. Write it down. Then write 3 lessons it taught you. Then write one action you will take today that turns that pain into power. Maybe it's showing up earlier, training harder, speaking up, saying no, working in silence, protecting your peace. Whatever it is, do it. Don't just think about it. Don't journal and forget. Move. This is what separates the top 1%. They don't wait for perfect moments. They take broken ones and build something strong with them. They don't run from pain. They run through it because they know the truth. Pain is a resource, and once you learn to use it, you never run out of fuel. Not when it hurts. Not when it's hard. Not when everyone else would fold. You stay in the fire, and you walk out, forged. Not fragile, ready, relentless, unbreakable. Chapter 5. Attach your identity to the process. If you keep trying to change your life without changing how you see yourself, nothing will stick. You'll push for a few days, maybe a few weeks, but the old identity will pull you right back. That's what happens when discipline is treated like a task instead of a trait. You can't fake consistency. You can't force habits long-term if deep down you still believe you're the kind of person who gives up. This chapter isn't about effort. It's about identity. Because if you want to make hard work your second nature, you have to make it part of who you are, not just what you do when you feel inspired. Your brain is constantly working to stay consistent with your self-image. That's one of the strongest psychological forces in human behavior. Once you believe something about yourself, your subconscious does everything it can to reinforce it. If you believe you're lazy, you'll unconsciously seek proof, skipping tasks, breaking promises, avoiding pain. If you believe you're inconsistent, you'll find ways to quit that match the story. It's not that you're incapable, it's that your identity hasn't caught up with your goals. And until it does, nothing you build will last. Let's say you want to become more disciplined. Most people will try to build habits around that. Wake up earlier, work out daily, study longer. That's a good start. But it only works if the foundation is solid. If your identity is still tied to your past, to your mistakes, to the old version of you who gave up when it got tough, your brain will quietly sabotage your efforts. That inner voice will say, "This isn't like you," and your habits will crumble under the weight of that belief. The solution is not more effort. The solution is alignment. You must align your daily actions with a new identity and protect that identity like it's your future. There's a concept in behavioral science called self-signaling. It means your brain watches your own behavior and draws conclusions about who you are based on what you do. Every action you take is a signal to your brain, "This is me." That means the fastest way to become disciplined isn't to wait until you feel it, it's to act like the kind of person who already is. You start with the action, you let the belief follow. Here's how it looks in real life. You want to write more consistently. Don't say, "I'm trying to be a writer." Say, "I'm a writer. I write every day, even when I don't feel like it." That simple shift changes everything. You want to train consistently. Stop saying, "I'm trying to get fit." Say, "I'm the kind of person who moves every day." The label matters. The brain attaches behavior to labels, and when you create a label that supports your future, you're far more likely to live up to it. Now let's make this practical. There's a 3-step process to rebuild your identity from the inside out. Step 1. Define your new self. Not a wish, not a hope. Decide who you are becoming. Be clear. I'm the kind of person who finishes what I start. I'm the kind of person who keeps promises to myself. I'm the kind of person who thrives under pressure. That's your new foundation. Step 2. Anchor that identity to small, repeated behaviors. Don't wait for big wins. That's not how identity is built. Identity is built through small, repeated proof. Write a paragraph every morning. Do 10 push-ups before your shower. Study one concept daily. Track your meals. Sit up in meetings. These aren't just tasks, they're bricks. Bricks that build the version of you you're trying to become. Step 3. Protect the identity. The old you will try to come back. So will the opinions of others. You'll hear voices, internal and external, saying, "You've changed," or "You'll never stick to this." That's where the real battle is. It's not about proving anything to others. It's about proving it to yourself. And you do that by defending your identity with action. Every single day. Psychologists have found that identity-based behavior change is the most powerful and lasting form of transformation. It doesn't require constant motivation, it requires consistency. When your behavior matches your beliefs, your brain relaxes, it stops resisting, it starts working with you, not against you. And that's when discipline becomes natural, because it feels like alignment, not effort. But be careful, identity works both ways. Every time you break your word to yourself, every time you say one thing and do another, you reinforce the wrong identity. You feed the version of you that gives up. You send the message, "Maybe I'm not who I thought I was." That's why keeping small promises is so important. Not because the task matters, but because the signal does. Here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, start every morning by stating one identity you are committed to building. Say it out loud. Write it down. "I'm the kind of person who shows up." Then take one action, no matter how small, that supports it, and track it. At the end of the day, reflect. Did your actions match your new identity? If not, reset. Try again. If yes, reinforce it. Say, "That's who I am now." Do that long enough, and the old identity fades. The new one takes root. You don't become disciplined by force. You become disciplined by becoming someone who doesn't need to be pushed. Someone who doesn't quit when things feel heavy. Someone who doesn't wait to feel inspired. That's what this chapter is about. Turning discipline from a performance into a personality. Because once it becomes part of who you are, you don't need to chase it. You live it. Chapter 6. Stop rewarding yourself for nothing. If you keep giving yourself rewards without earning them, your brain starts believing that effort doesn't matter, and that belief quietly kills your drive. Think about it. You scroll before you work. You eat like you've won something before doing anything hard. You watch YouTube or Netflix as if you've crossed the finish line, but you never even left the starting block. That's not a break. That's a bribe. You're training your brain to expect comfort without cost, and that's why you keep feeling stuck. You're stealing the prize before running the race. Modern life makes this easy. Everything around you is designed to deliver pleasure instantly. You open an app, you get dopamine. You click a button, something entertaining appears. Your phone doesn't care if you've worked today. It just cares that you're watching, and over time, that rewires your brain. It makes your nervous system expect pleasure now, not after the effort, but instead of it. That's the problem. It's not that you don't have goals, it's that your reward system is broken. Neuroscience explains this perfectly. In the brain, dopamine is released not just when you receive a reward, but more powerfully when you anticipate one. Dr. Wilfram Schultz's studies at the University of Cambridge showed that dopamine firing increases when there's a cue that signals a future reward. This anticipation gives you the motivation to act. But when you consistently offer yourself pleasure with no conditions, no work, no stress, no challenge, you remove the anticipation, you kill the trigger, and you make discipline unnecessary in your internal world. That's why it becomes harder to focus, harder to push through discomfort. Your brain is trained to expect the reward first. This concept is rooted in what B.F. Skinner called operant conditioning. It's a psychological principle that says behaviors followed by satisfying consequences are more likely to be repeated. Now apply that to your habits. If watching a video gives you a dopamine hit, and you do it before doing anything productive, your brain logs that as a successful behavior. No work, no struggle, just reward. And because your brain loves efficiency, it learns, why work when I can feel good now? Multiply that loop by days, weeks, years, and it becomes your default setting. Look at any top performer in the world, and you'll see the opposite system at play. They don't reward themselves for showing up. They earn it through repetition. Athletes train for hours before they relax. Writers finish the page before they sip the coffee. Builders pour concrete before they sit in the shade. And the reason their discipline feels so solid is because they've conditioned their brains to crave satisfaction after sacrifice. It's not self-denial, it's self-mastery. Now let's make it practical. There's a framework called Earn Then Reward, and it works like this. First, define a meaningful action. This could be writing 500 words, studying for 45 minutes, finishing one work call, or completing your gym session. Second, choose a real reward, but only give it to yourself once the action is done. Third, stick to it with no exceptions. If you don't meet the standard, you don't get the reward. That's how you rewire the loop. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, explains that habits are built in a feedback loop: cue, craving, response, reward. But if you consistently place the reward before the response, pleasure before effort, you break the loop. You train your system to crave comfort without consequence. The fix: build a craving for closure, a craving for effort. And that happens when your brain starts seeing effort as the only route to the reward. Neri Isle, in his book Indistractable, writes about how the modern world hijacks your attention by offering you what he calls variable rewards. Those unpredictable little pleasures that keep you hooked. Scrolling, likes, autoplay, constant pings. All of it bypasses the need for focus. But if you're constantly rewarding yourself with those micro hits, you'll never build macro discipline. You'll never condition your system to link joy with the grind. And that link is everything. Here's what you can do today. Pick one comfort you usually reach for without thinking. Maybe it's your morning coffee, social media, snacks, or checking your favorite app. Now attach it to a specific piece of work, something non-negotiable. You don't get the reward unless you finish the work. No halfway, no almost, just results, then reward. If the work doesn't happen, the reward doesn't either. This might sound small, but the shift it causes in your internal system is massive. You start building integrity. You start linking satisfaction to execution, and you begin to develop the mindset that separates leaders from followers. Because here's the truth, you can't train your brain to crave both comfort and greatness. You have to choose which one you want more. If comfort keeps winning, greatness will always lose. But if effort starts earning the reward, something powerful happens. Your nervous system recalibrates, your anticipation returns, and you'll start waking up with a craving, not for entertainment or escape, but for that earned feeling of, I did the hard thing, I earned the win. Don't confuse relief with reward. Real rest comes after work. Real confidence comes after pressure. And real satisfaction only shows up when you've earned it. Pleasure without performance makes you soft. Pleasure after performance makes you unstoppable. Start conditioning your brain the right way, and the rest will follow. Chapter 7. Track effort, not just results. If you only measure results, you'll stay frustrated. If you only celebrate wins, you'll feel like you're losing every time progress slows down. That's what happens when your focus is on outcomes instead of effort. You train hard, but don't see the weight drop, so you stop. You study for hours, but don't ace the test, so you say it's not working. You post consistently, but don't get likes, so you quit. But the truth is, results are lagging indicators. They take time, and if you stop every time you don't see immediate reward, you'll never give yourself the chance to break through. Discipline isn't built through success, it's built through showing up when nothing is happening. This chapter is about learning to value what most people overlook: effort. Modern culture trains you to chase the finish line. Productivity is measured in numbers. Fitness is measured in scales. Value is measured in followers, views, bank balances. But the people who last, the ones who win long term, don't just track what they get. They track how often they show up. Because showing up is the system. When you start focusing on input instead of outcome, your progress becomes sustainable. You stop chasing short-term highs and start stacking long-term habits. There's real psychology behind this. Dr. Teresa Amabelli, a Harvard researcher, conducted a study on motivation and found that what drives people most isn't massive achievement, but a consistent sense of forward movement. She called it the progress principle. Even the smallest sign that you're advancing creates emotional momentum. But most people ignore those signs. They overlook the reps, the hours, the effort. And when you overlook what you control, you become addicted to what you don't. Let's make this real. You're building a new habit, maybe waking up earlier, journaling daily, or sticking to a workout plan. You commit, you show up, you follow through. But after a few days, you don't feel transformed. The external results aren't here yet, and that gap between effort and outcome creates frustration. That frustration becomes doubt, and that doubt becomes a reason to stop. That's where most people quit. Not because they didn't make progress, but because they couldn't see it. They had no system to track what actually matters. You need a system. Something simple, something that makes invisible progress visible. This is where the tool comes in. The effort log. It's not fancy. It's not complicated. But it works. Every day you log 3 things: what you said you'd do, what you actually did, and how you showed up. Even if it wasn't perfect. You don't grade yourself. You just reflect. You make the invisible visible. And over time, those small logs become proof. Proof that you're not inconsistent. Proof that you're moving, even when the results aren't loud yet. Here's how to set it up. Step 1. Choose the actions that matter most to your goal. Not outcomes. Actions. If you're building focus, maybe it's 90 minutes of deep work. If you're improving your health, maybe it's moving for 30 minutes or hitting your water target. Keep it specific and behavioral. Step 2. Create a log. Paper app, journal, spreadsheet, doesn't matter. What matters is daily reflection. Step 3. At the end of each day, write down what you did, how long you did it, and how it felt. Not how successful it was, how consistent you were. That's your real data. There's a term in sports psychology called delayed reinforcement. It means the reward doesn't come right away, but the behavior still needs to be repeated. Think about lifting weights. You don't see muscle growth after one session. You don't become faster after one sprint. But if you only trained when the results were immediate, you'd never see the transformation. Effort must come before evidence. And the only way to stay with it long enough to see change is to track and value your effort in real time. Now here's the shift. Start celebrating inputs. Celebrate the reps. Celebrate the sit-downs. Celebrate the silence you held instead of reacting. Celebrate the study session, not the grade. Celebrate the healthy meal, not the weight. These aren't participation trophies, they're markers of who you're becoming. You're not just trying to hit goals, you're trying to build a reputation with yourself that you're the kind of person who shows up, no matter what. And that reputation matters more than any scoreboard, because when your identity is built on effort, you can survive dry spells, slow months, and silent progress. You're not shaken by the lack of applause. You're not swayed by what others can or can't see. You've got data, you've got receipts, you know what you've put in, and that quiet knowing becomes an unstoppable force. While others are waiting for proof, you're building it. Here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, create a daily effort log. Pick 3 key behaviors that reflect your goals. At the end of each day, track whether you did them. No pressure for perfection, just honesty. Then write 1 sentence. I showed up today by, and finish the sentence. Read it back to yourself. That sentence is the seed. And if you plant enough of those days in a row, you'll look up one day and realize you became the person you were trying to be. Not because the results shouted it, but because the effort never stopped. Discipline lives in the unseen work. And when you start tracking that unseen work, it doesn't stay invisible forever. It starts showing up in your focus, in your energy, in your resilience. That's what effort does. It builds the person before it builds the reward. Track it, respect it, and let it grow.